Guys, be quiet so we can hear Lori. Lori's gonna talk louder, or I'll yell at you.
He always yells at us anyway, so it's fine. Okay, so USDA loans, what I want to do is I just want to go over some of the basic points with you guys, because these are really good loans and they can be used for a ton of situations where your buyers don't have a down payment and stuff. The first thing is that you've got to be an approved lender, which CrossCountry is an approved lender. And the probably the biggest thing about USDA and why it's attractive is because it's a zero down. And so that it literally the borrowers have to know they don't have to come in with any funds at all. So they can get everything from the seller as far as the 6% up to 6% in closing costs and prepaids. So it's a true zero down. There are a couple rules with it as far as like income. They have to be under a certain income to be eligible for the product, and also the property has to be in a certain area in order to be eligible for the USDA product. And it always has to be primary residence, always. So
real quick, Lori's going to go through all those details so you know. But just so we know, has anybody been involved with a transaction on USDA? Stella and Mackenzie on the
years ago.
Okay, buyer or seller side?
Buyer.
Has your buyer used it?
Yeah.
Okay, how'd it go?
It went pretty well. It was out in Forest Grove. It was last year. And he actually just referred a friend to do the same program at Forest Grove. And so we're headed towards that one.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Anyone on the listing side get one? Anyone had an offer on the listing side and it made you nervous? Right? So part of what we want you to do is have confidence in the program as well. I mean, mainly we want you to see opportunity to help buyers who might not otherwise be able to buy a home, right? But we also don't want you to pass on an offer just because it's USDA, which some people do. They're like, I heard those are bad, I don't want to do it, right? So they're not, they can be done poorly, but the loan itself is not bad.
yeah, it's gotten really streamlined. I think like when they first came out, it was a little bit wiggly, but now they're really pretty easy. So these USDA loans were put together for people with moderate to lower income. And the thing that's different about USDA is because they will go on the family income. In other words, the whole household income. I shouldn't say family because even if it's somebody just living there, like renting a room or something, they take the whole entire household income, and that's factored into their eligibility. It's on the property. I'm going to show you what the income looks like. This is based on county. That's kind of a fun thing to try to figure out, right? But yeah, and this is just these counties. I mean, in every single county, it has different amounts that the people can make. But then there's also your income, what they will, count as a family, and then also the income deductions. Like if there's children, then they will allow you to deduct $450 $480. And these are all things that you don't really need to be concerned with, because as your lender, we go through this whole thing and we figure out what income we can use, and on the same note, what income we don't have to use, because sometimes, we're at that point of just barely being able to get your borrowers eligible for this USDA program. And there's also a chart like this that we use.
Well, will you go back to the chart? Because I think the
here?
next one. Yeah, and just look at some of those, and some of that is fairly significant income that you have to work with.
Yeah.
Right?
In fact, in Washington County, from 1 to 4 people, it's $96,600, and from 5 to 8 people, it's $123,550 per year. So
you only need one person to qualify?
What's that now?
You only need one person?
No. Well, it's
Yeah,
everybody
to
in the
qualify.
household.
But you only need
But-
one person to qualify.
Right, but if there's additional income in that household, they want to count it. So in other words, you can use just one person, but if there's 5 other people that live in the house, that work part-time or whatever they want you to,
So everybody has to
Consider
apply.
that. yeah,
If they wanna
live
use
there.
their income.
Well, then how does it work?
USDA, you have to use all the income that's in that particular household. If you're there, more than 6 months a year, then they wanna count your income.
Right.
And that's, there's obviously ways to negotiate around that, but that is the hard up, fast and rule of it.
Was your question, can just a single person use the loan?
For example, you have 4 people in your family.
Yeah.
Do you apply for the loan or all 5 people apply for the loan?
So I just applied for the loan, but if
Okay,
my
you make
spouse,
100,000 and then you
but
have
if
4
my
people.
spouse works, we have to count my spouse's income as well.
Okay.
And I apologize, I thought the question was, can just a single person get the loan?
Makes sense, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But a single
yeah,
person can.
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
yeah.
Yep.
It's just, what this is all about is the maximum amount of income that you're allowed to make and use this program. And then on this other slide, I had it, to where you can actually make 96,600 per year to still qualify for this type of loan. And on the 123, there's not any maximum loan amount. So based on the income from the borrower, as long as they qualify, there's no maximum amount that they have to stay under, except for like under jumbo loans. But the whole thing on these is that we do the ratios of 29:41, meaning that what a ratio, do you guys know what ratios are? Okay, so the front ratio is basically what the person, their income based on what the house payment's gonna be. Their back ratio is based on their income, the house, and any of their debts, all of their debts. So this is a hard, fast rule on USDA. They will not go over 41% on the back end. They absolutely won't. So,
Or
that's.
29% on the front.
Yeah. Well, 29%, I've seen them fluctuate a bit, not a lot, because if you have a 40-41, it's not gonna happen either.
No.
So just keep in mind that 41's an absolute dead stop, and the front ratio's gotta be like right around 29, 20, 30s.
So the 41 is the debt to income ratio
Yeah.
of all of the person's debt.
Yep.
Okay.
And the
Income.
29 is the housing payment itself. And when we say housing payment, that includes taxes and insurance, right?
Okay.
It's PITI, not just, and there's
Yeah.
sort of mortgage insurance on USDA, but not really. So the reason Lori emphasizes that point so much, even though it's the small print up there, that's what kicks us out most from using USDA, are those ratios. So most of the
Right.
time we want to use one and the client would like to use one and we end up not being able to, it's because of ratios. After we get around where the house is.
Qualifying,
right?
yeah, where the home is.
So that only apply to the primary home or
It has to be a primary home, yes. Only when occupied. And they will not do duplexes and fourplexes. Anything that is income generating, even farm loans, that show income, they won't do those either. So it's straight up, and I've got a slide here too showing you all the different types of properties that they will do. So I'll show you that here in a second. But here's okay, so the other part is that they have to be in a rural area, right? So what a rural area is considered is any place that is 10,000 or does not exceed 10,000 people, and that's what they do is they'll do it like a census of this. Basically on a yearly basis, I believe, to show what areas are going to be eligible for the USDA loans, like Forest Grove and Banks. Any place on the outskirts is going to be eligible for that program. And this is just an outline because I took what is eligible, and you can see, you got lines like going all over the place. There's no way as a realtor that you can say, I'm going to show them this place, and there's just so many variances on that. So what we've got is a at this website, we can put the address in, so if you've got somebody that's USDA approved, then what you would wanna do is you'd wanna make sure that the property that you're gonna show them is USDA eligible. And this is a really, really simple site to use, and I can email it to everybody. But what you do is you put in the address, and it literally tells you like right there if the property is eligible or ineligible.
So
And that's
real
hugely
quick, when
helpful.
you lose the link after she sends it to you or you forget it, that's fine, I do that all the time. Google, right, USDA rural housing eligibility, and just do the .gov one. So if you do one of the other ones, it's lenders trying to market
Oh,
to
yeah.
you, right? But do the .gov one, it will take you to this where you can enter the address and get the very clear, yes, it's eligible, no, it's not.
Right.
Excuse me, will we be able to get those other slides that came through earlier on, that you're showing?
Sure,
through the-
yeah.
Some of them, she can't give you the whole presentation because we can't do anything with the rates on it.
Okay, so yeah, I'll just take those out.
Just a quick question, once you get to this website, there's 2 tabs at the top, one says guaranteed, one says direct. Which one should you?
The
choose?
guaranteed.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, that'll bring up this map, and then you just put in your address. So that site is really, really hugely helpful. And, I know that I've heard, agents talk before about there's not that many houses available for USDA areas, and actually there really is. I looked up these, and this is like, just Banks and, Newburgh, Forest Grove, and there are a ton of houses that are eligible for this. So basically what you wanna do is, like, even when you go through your listings, what I would do is I'd go through my listings and I would mark on my MLS to say if it was eligible for USDA. And you could just say property is eligible for USDA because, obviously the buyers have to qualify regardless, but
Right.
but that's something that can really help, at least get the people thinking that this is worth looking into. So, and then as far as the properties that they will finance is they'll do condos, townhouses, manufactured homes, single family residence. Like I say, they won't do duplexes or fourplexes, anything like that, anything multi. But the condos, I thought that was pretty good because they didn't used to do condos.
And
So they've added that.
counterintuitively, nothing that's farming.
Yeah, nothing that makes farming income, yeah, can't have that, so. And the interest rates and stuff on this are really good, and probably one of the major things about the USDA loan is your mortgage insurance is only 35%, I didn't put it on here, but it's, basically, if we were looking at a loan or a purchase price of $400,000, if we went USDA, we would have 0 down, and your, let me find it here. USDA would be the 0 down, and you would have an interest rate of about 4%. So it's not, it's very, very competitive. The nice thing is, like I say, the 0.35 mortgage insurance, which ends up being $113 per month. So your principal and interest, and that's on the loan amount of $400,000, would be $1,929. And just to compare it to FHA, where they'd have to put 3.5% down payment, which would be $14,000. FHA is running about 4% also, but the mortgage insurance on the FHA is 0.85, so it's quite substantially higher. And then, of course, I've based all of these on the credit score of 620, and you can see on the conventional, it's really bad because anytime we go conventional, we've got to have good credit. So these other programs are they're just way more lenient on credit scoring and what they require on that.
Are you guys seeing the advantage to your buyers here?
Yeah.
Huge advantage,
Huge.
right?
Yeah,
So they can buy anywhere they want, right? But
Right.
because of their credit, look at the mortgage insurance on that.
Yeah.
Right? The down payment and the rate. So they're almost $1,000 more a month, and they gotta come out of pocket with $12,000.
Yeah.
Right? So even if you're working with a buyer in all honesty, that buyer, if they're working with any kind of decent lender, is not gonna be looking at conventional anyway, right? They're gonna be looking at FHA. But even compare it here, right? So if you can pull that map up, if they're looking and they're looking out far enough, and you can move them across the line and find them a property that's eligible for USDA, right?
Yeah, it's gonna work out way better.
Right.
Much better. Or think of it this way: you don't if they don't have to do the 3.5% down, you maybe don't have to ask the seller for concessions over here, right? In order to have the closing costs and down payment. So it really
Yeah.
gives you a ton of flexibility in terms of what you can do for the buyer.
I will always use a USDA if I have a choice over FHA or conventional, just because of the simple fact of the mortgage insurance and the zero down, and you know, it's a no-brainer. It's a good one.
Is the mortgage insurance for life alone?
Yes, on USDA and on FHA. So, but it's 0.35, so it's not that bad. And you know, typically, especially when you get into these types of credit scores, your interest rate on the USDA is better than on conventional. I mean, it's, you know, and of course, if somebody had, you know, 720 credit score and we could do 3% down, then I would change the whole thing and I, you know, look at doing this 3% down on conventional. But that's what your, you know, lenders need to do, is go through the whole scenario and put all the pieces of the puzzle together and figure out what's going to be best for your borrowers. So.
Quick question. Would a buyer be able to refinance after a certain amount of time? So there's no prepayment penalty
No.
if they wanted to eliminate mortgage insurance.
Right.
But then as soon as I thought of that question, I'm like, okay, well, they might not want to refinance because then they're going to end up going.
Well, it depends. I mean,
Depends.
because after they've been there for a few years, and let's say that they've, you know, they've got their credit scores cleaned up and their, you know, FICO's looking a little bit higher, then it would definitely
Then it might
make
be
sense to
helpful.
look at. I mean, obviously depending on what the rates are doing at that point,
And if
but
they had a down payment where they could get below, so they could eliminate the MI on conventional.
Correct.
So it's
yeah.
all, yeah.
So whenever we put somebody into a USDA or an FHA loan, anything where we know that mortgage insurance is gonna be there forever,
Mhm.
part of the plan is either it's not their forever home, right? So they're gonna sell it in 5 to 10 years, which is fine. Or B, at some point, they're gonna have enough equity in that home to get them out of that,
Right.
right? And even if the rate were a little bit higher, but we were eliminating the mortgage insurance, which happens in FHA quite a bit,
Right.
right? So if we can take that FHA buyer and in 2 years, 2 or 3 years, whatever it is, they've got more than 20% equity and we can refi them at 4.25% and get rid of $265 a month in mortgage
Right.
insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
Mortgage insurance isn't a deduction, interest
Right.
is, they're paying more principal that way and they lower their payment. So that's always a strategy we look at, and USDA is the same for that strategy. It's just not as compelling to do it as quickly because the cost is less for what they're paying.
Right. Yeah, and basically, I mean, you know, FHA, USDA, any of those loan programs are built to get the borrower into the home so that they can start establishing equity, and, you know, I mean, you gotta pay to live somewhere, so you may as well own the house to live in.
That's right.
So, I'm just talking again about putting it on your listing, you know, to show that this is USDA eligible properties, because I think it's gonna like hugely get, you know, people interested in looking at the property and possibly making offers. And then here's all of just the facts on USDA. These are the things that like you probably don't really care about because it doesn't, but this is what we're looking for. It's a true zero down. There is a 1% finance guarantee fee. What that is it's a fee that USDA collects, but it's financed. It's rolled into the financing of the loan. So the borrower doesn't come up with it. In fact, the total loan to value is actually 102.75. So that means that, so it's a true zero down. We finance the 1%, and you know, like I said earlier, the seller can pay up to 6% towards closing costs and prepaids. So, and that's we haven't used 6%, and I never. But credit scores are super flexible. Looking at 580, it's really flexible.
Wow.
It's not limited to first-time home buyers. We can do 30-year fixed, 15-year fixed. There's no arms on USDA. I don't think, is there?
There's no arms, and really in our
Yeah.
markets, 15-year isn't a thing because
Yeah.
it drives the
Right.
So what do you mean by
payment up too much.
not limited to first time buyer?
That means that somebody can have already owned a home,
Really?
you know, like the year before or whatever, yeah.
So they can use this program to buy a second home?
No, you
Not
can't
a
buy a
second
second
home.
home,
Oh.
but if they've owned this home, and let's say that they're selling this home, they're gonna buy this home, as soon as this home sells, they can buy this home on USDA.
So they can't rent out home number one.
Right, that was wondering about that.
No.
They could.
So granted, they have to
But you
live
could
in
do
the
the
US.
It has to be their
Okay.
primary residence.
Okay, but they have to live in the one that's financed USDA.
Correct.
But they can
Right.
still keep the other one as
Yes.
a rental.
Yes.
Yes, they could.
Okay, so
Right.
which means they can use their current primary home for rental and then buy another one to live in there.
They can.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. In fact, I've heard underwriters say though that it's gotta make sense as far as, in fact, somebody, wasn't it Rochelle was saying that the other day that it has to make sense for the borrower to keep their one home and buy another home because of the fact that they're doing it on a USDA with zero down.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a, I honestly haven't ever done one.
I haven't done it that way either, but that almost exclusively the USDA's I've done have been first-time home buyers.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be. So in that strategy, let's say they couldn't sell their other home or they wanted to keep it because it was a great rental opportunity. Well, USDA might be a way to do that, right? Maybe they would have had to sell their home to get a down payment to buy a new home, but if they were ready to move and found a home that was eligible and it worked for them, then that might be a strategy. But it has to be their primary residence.
Yeah.
And what happens if it ceases to be? What if they live in it for a year and then decide to?
Everything's about intent, so
Okay,
every
it's-
time.
I thought so, it's just like.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Okay.
like all the other ones,
Like
it's
all the
about
others.
intent,
Okay.
they have to be doing that. You know, if
Yeah.
we get the feeling they're not, then we're like, I'm not committing fraud with you, so
Yeah.
call somebody
No, I
else.
was just wondering
Right,
what the, yeah.
yeah.
That,
About the gift funds, so how does that work, as opposed to FHA or conventional? What's
kind
the-
of the same. They can have 100% gift funds from a family member from a, what do you call it, non-profit or what is it called, non-profit organization, a church or whatever.
DPA, Down
Yeah.
Payment Assistance Program,
Yeah.
or a relative. So
Yes.
if they wanna put down payment, or they need to make the numbers work, or if they need the money for the closing costs, that's where the gift would come into play.
Yeah. And most programs will have an amount required that the borrower brings in, but this one absolutely doesn't. So they can literally walk in with zero, which is crazy. But,
And just real quick, a little boring history, because Lori and I are mortgage nerds. The finance guarantee and mortgage insurance, if you had done a USDA loan, gosh, what, 5, 10, maybe not 5, but 10 years ago, it wouldn't have had either of those things. But what did happen is every fall, Congress had to renew the program. So there was a period, late summer, early fall, every year where we didn't know if we had money.
Mhm.
Right, so it essentially made the program really hard to use for that set of time. Now, they did renew it every year, but we couldn't say yes for sure and we're gonna close your loan until they did. So they added the guarantee fee to every loan and the mortgage insurance to self-fund the program, so that they know that they have funds available and they're not basically unplugging it for 3 months out of the year.
right. Yeah, because it used to go real squirrely with our closing dates.
Right, it's like, we'll close probably in 60 days.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah. And the only time I've ran into a real issue was when the government shut down. That was a treat.
Yeah.
We had 2 loans in
program shut
USDA
down.
and it was just like, oh my gosh. But
Oh, I remember.
anyway, yeah, we were able to switch it over to FHAs. But, so anyway, if you have buyers with very little money, or if they're saving up for down payment, it's not gonna hurt to have one of us talk to them and just see where we're at with, you know, with them being eligible for USDA. And with that being said too, we've also got our program called Fast Track, which means that if you've got a borrower and let's say that you know you're not real sure if they're going to qualify for for USDA or any other loan for that matter, we can take them through and we can actually have their file underwritten, everything except for the property. And obviously on USDA, you know, we know which properties that were eligible for them to purchase. But you can have them completely pre-qualified, pre-approved, so that you'll have a certificate when you go to make your offer. You can hand that to the listing agent and have it completely, you know, these people have been underwritten to the amount of $250 or whatever it may be. So that's gonna be hugely helpful, and that's a really good idea to do on USDA because of the fact that the incomes are so, you can't just look at a W-2 until you know what the income is straight up. You know what I mean? There's too many variables, so it's a really good idea to do on this program too. So do you guys have any other questions? Okay.
So, if I'm gonna list a house with a current farm deferral that's out in the USDA area, if I put on there USDA, but it has a farm deferral also, I mean, could I list it with that in the description, or I mean, is that, would they have to get rid of the farm deferral before, or how does that work?
That's not income. Is that considered
Deferral.
income? It's a deferral. It's not actual income, right? So
Well, they have to have farming.
I forgot my license number.
Right, so they
You
have to
can
have
go.
some kind of farming.
I think it's a showstopper, but don't take that as a definitive answer, because I understand farm deferral the same way, which means that property is at least
Thank you.
able to get income from farm, and the program says clearly no farming.
But if they didn't do farming, like if the person with the loan, the USDA loan, didn't end up doing farming on that property, like let's say, because some properties aren't huge, they're like 15 acres or whatever, they just decided to mow it instead.
right.
I think it's gonna be a showstopper, but Lori can, figure
I
out
can
for
follow
sure.
up with you on that.
Cool.
Yeah, let you know what.
Because they're just so, and I just laugh because it's so counterintuitive, right? USDA rural housing, well, you can't
I
do
know.
any farming on that.
I know, yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
What's the goal about their net income?
I'm sorry.
Like,
Is it closed the typical 30 days?
Yes.
And how
Yeah.
about the appraisal?
Actually, appraisal, I'm glad you asked that, it's actually a conventional appraisal. So if there's nothing quirky about it, it's straight up, you know,
It's not
licensed
like
appraiser can do
VA,
it.
there's paint chips, they have to, okay.
No, on USD, it's all conventional. So, which means, you know, that helps us get these turned around quickly, you know, quicker too than having to wait for an FHA appraiser and stuff, so. Go ahead.
I'd like to revisit his question about the farm deferral program. I'm a little less familiar with that program and would like to know more about the interaction between the USDA loan and this and actual farms.
All I know is that the property can't show an income for USDA.
Really?
Show an income or show a profit?
I'm sorry, well, yeah, it can't show not a profit, it can't have an income.
The
Can't have
property
an income at all.
cannot be
Okay.
income generating.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't board horses, you can't grow alfalfa.
So you can't plan to do it as an income producing
No.
property and take a USDA loan?
Correct.
Oh,
What about if you don't wanna do income?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So his question was, what if it's just zoned that way? And my guess is, and I always say it's not what I don't know that gets me in trouble, it's what I know that I'm wrong about. So I may be wrong about this, but my guess is because USDA rural housing is so adamant that it can't be income producing, that they're not gonna close a loan that's zoned on an income producing project.
It's not, I don't think that's not about zoning, that's tax stuff.
Oh, just a tax deferral?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that
I don't know if it would be a problem. Lori will find out.
Okay.
yeah.
So we still are not clear whether or not you can use the USDA loan to buy an actual income producing farm.
No, you
You
cannot
can't.
use it to buy an income producing farm, positively no.
It says that it's an income producing, then you cannot.
What if they plan to turn it into something that produces income?
How you can get that okay to do?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so no income producing, that part we're not clear on.
Yeah.
The tax deferral maybe.
See, tax deferral can be because it's forest land or just because
Right.
it's agricultural. It doesn't necessarily have to be income.
It doesn't have to show it as.
To be tax deferral.
So there are programs for people who want to have income producing farms that are not nearly as attractive as this USDA one, is that what I'm hearing?
I'm sure there are, I don't know.
So
all the
just, yeah,
time.
real quick on that, because that's a great question. We do run into it from time to time. The place we most run into it is the people who want to buy 5 acres that have a Christmas tree farm on it.
Right.
mortgage lenders, residential home mortgage lenders don't like that.
Okay.
So there may be some ways to work around it, but the loan's not gonna have the kind of interest rates that that's a different kind of loan. But it gets twisted because a lot of people are buying that property because the house, and they want that house in West Lynn or wherever it is, right? And there happens to be a tree farm on it, that very much complicates things.
It kind of spins it into a little bit of a commercial type loan, and
Right.
then things get real hairy and.
Right. So it's not that we can never do it, but it's not the same as a regular Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac,
Okay,
FHA loan.
so if my client is wanting to buy farm property in order to produce income, then the USDA loan is not the one.
Not an option,
They're gonna need a commercial loan.
probably.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In terms of the home, because some of these, properties are kind of rough when you start looking at them, is it hard to get them through the appraisals underwritten? Are
It
there
depends.
more, like, standards such as FHA where it's a little bit harder?
No, it's, I mean, the appraisal's conventional,
Can you
but,
repeat the question?
oh, she's asking if, like, some of the houses are a little bit rough, and she wants to know if it's harder to get those houses through, like, USDA approval. And the thing is if you're talking about, like, structurally, compromised, you know, roofs and stuff like that are gonna be questionable, then yeah, you're gonna have that issue on a conventional loan, FHA loan, VA loan, any of them. But if it's just cosmetic, then it's looked at just like a conventional. So, you know.
Same as a rough home in a neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah, well, I mean, you know, you've gotta have all of your, you know, necessity stuff, you know, heat, like, I mean, you know, it's gotta be, it's just like a conventional.
It doesn't need a rehab, if you don't have a rehab option though, so you could.
We do have a rehab option, it doesn't go with USDA, but it's a 203K rehab one. Actually, we have a conventional rehab too.
And
So,
VA,
yeah.
and VA rehab, but none
yeah.
of those are, well, VA potentially is zero down.
Yeah.
But we have the Fannie Mae's rehab, renovation program and FHA's as well, both the streamline and the regular. So they would just need down payment once they're a veteran. And again, a veteran doesn't need down payment, right? No matter where they're buying. So.
When you do VA over USDA.
Correct.
I have a question, you might have already clarified it, but let's say somebody buys a piece of property and, you know, let's say it's 50 acres and, 49 of it is in forest deferral, but no one has ever got any income over it. Would that still qualify?
On USDA, do you know if there's an acreage limit?
Well, it doesn't matter, even if it was 10 acres, you know, it doesn't matter, but you have to have at least 1 acre for the house, and the rest of the acreage can be in forest deferral if it.
See, I think, and I don't know for positively answer because it's basically just like his question, but from my understanding, when I've done this before, if the tax returns don't show property income, then we don't consider it as farm income. So that's.
I mean, you're not checking on the selling body, so you're never gonna find out if there's income property or not.
No, but there is, I know that I've had this happen before where.
Basically,
we
the
had to show
appraiser
that-
goes out, and if the appraiser can tell if there's income producing activities going on there. Basically,
Yeah.
just if your buyer intends to use it for income producing, or the current owner is using it for income producing, don't use it USDA. You're just in for a long, hard road. I think the deferral, probably okay.
Yeah, we're mixing.
Exactly,
income
there's two
versus
different things.
Tax deferral, that's a
Right.
property tax issue, and you're
Right.
not speaking to
That's
that.
right, that's right.
Well, she did.
Right,
and-
no,
and
I
we s-
understand.
Yeah, and we said we don't know yet.
Income producing is
Correct.
the problem.
Income
Not
producing is a
tax.
showstopper, we know that. Forest deferral, agricultural deferral, Lori's gonna find out,
Yeah.
for certain.
And it could be income producing, it depends on if the original seller at one point in time had the trees cut down. or
Right, well,
something.
again, it can't be for the purposes of this.
Right.
So that might be a great example, right? So maybe at one time, maybe it's forest deferral, it's not income producing, but somehow it comes up that at one point it was logged and used for income, and then they might say, no, that's an income producing property and we can't do it. So that's where the confusion comes in, right?
Yeah, and that's a question because, you know, I mean, even if the new buyer never does anything with it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I'll get clarification on that, and then,
Should get the list from Kim.
Yeah,
and she
from the
can-
list from Kim, and I'll also send you out the link to that, so you can see if the property's eligible, because that's really helpful. And of course, we're always available if you are out looking at a property, you wanna call real quick, and, we can throw the address in there and let you know too. So we're always available and happy to help you guys, evenings, weekends, workdays, whatever.
So you said the income limit was the 96?
Yeah, and that was from
Okay.
96.6, I think it was.
Okay. The only reason I ask is because on the chart, on the screen before, it said 101,000.
But there's different,
Go back to the chart maybe.
I mean, it's only 5,000 difference, but,
Washington County.
yeah, see, some of them, let's see.
see, both of them say Portland, Vancouver, Hillsborough.
Well, and it might be too, that this one is, because they change these, they
Yeah.
consistently update these, so I know that
So that one
when I was
says-
putting these together, it had just recently increased, so that might be an older
Yeah, this is showing 101.
slide on that.
So we're at 90, the only reason I ask is
96.
because I know this young man and his brother are thinking about buying a USD home together. And I know one of them doesn't make the limit, but together they might, so
Okay,
I just was wanting to know that number, so it's 96.
96.6.
Okay,
Oh, all right.
Well-
Or unless this came after, because it says 101.50.
so as long as they're below the 96, then they would be fine.
Well, yeah, just, and, there's so many different ways to figure out their income on this, because there's deductions and stuff that you can take, so,
So they really just need to talk to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just, it's just much better, because that way, you get a clear answer, and
Right.
and I really, really do suggest that
And this
these
is a
are
moving
approved
target, so
for-
we always
yeah.
have to go back and check, what is it now?
Yeah.
Alright.
Where are these, income, limits based at?
Actually, I think you can get them off of the link that I'll send to you.
Yeah.
And
I
you just,
usually have-
you look for income eligibility rather than property eligibility tab.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it lets you search by county, because it gives us
Yeah.
this, but obviously it's actually done by county, right? But we see overlap here in counties that are being listed.
Right.
Typically, the ones that are around metropolitan areas are higher.
Right.
Why do people think that they're more difficult? Why is that the common response?
They used to be.
And, the carryover from, well, I entered in a contract in one in December, and it didn't close until, September, and it didn't close until December, because they used to have to get renewed. And people don't
Yeah.
understand them, and they think there are different appraisals, and they've just heard these things about them, so it's just ignorance.
Unless the government shuts down.
Unless the government shuts down, and then we do have a problem.
And that's a bonus,
Yeah.
yeah. But, and it can be tricky with their income. I mean, you need to have a lender who knows how to do them and knows how to put the numbers together for their income, because you can get all the way, after you have your appraisal, everybody's done with the inspections and stuff, and then if the borrower makes too much, it's done. It's just done. They don't, yeah, they don't,
Make sure they stay within that period, within that income.
yeah.
We did recently have, it wasn't this program, but it was with another one with an income cap, where somebody got a raise during their process and they could no longer buy the house.
What's the closing time?
We can still close in about 30 days. I don't think anything's taking us longer than 30 days right now.
No, it's
Except
not.
for 203Ks maybe, but.
I'm a big advocate for, don't do that unless you have to. Right, so if this is a rural property that hasn't moved and you can get 45 or 60 or on or before, let's do that. It's always nice to pleasantly surprise people and have to make you go back and ask for a few more days if we can.
Or you get your borrower completely approved on fast track, and then we can,
Then we know it's a slam dunk
Yeah.
to do it in 30 days.
yeah, so that's really that's the best options with these. So, you guys good?
All right. Well, you know where to find us if you have questions. We'll be happy to answer them for you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
And I usually just type in. Thank you guys, that was good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're good.
I usually just type Google, literally, USD.
All right.
This is good, right?
Yeah, that's how I do it. And I figure it out because I don't remember what.
Hey, Mackenzie.
I got an email that did like.
Yep.
You guys offer that as well?
We do. We do until we didn't, and then we did again. So what happened is Chenoa had a drop dead date, we couldn't do it with FHA stuff. And they came out. So that day came and went, and we're like, okay, they're gone. Right, and we were hesitant to put people on, so we just wanted to say, but since that, like the week after, last week,
And it's,
there was a. Basically, they can't.
yeah, as long as, you know, people qualify under the.
So we do have to.
So what makes a program
In this, well, in this case, the Genoa program.
And then how many people are in your family? Okay. Okay, let me deal